Today I have a very special guest, my buddy, Mr. Tommy Caps. Thank you for being here, Mr. Tommy.
Thanks for asking.
So we'll just jump right into it. That's how I like to do it. Where are you from, man?
Well, I'm a New Orleanian. I mean, if I go back to my birth, my parents were from Oklahoma, but and that's where I was born.
What made him come over here?
The oil boom in the late 40s and 50s that started happening offshore and in the areas of Louisiana that were almost offshore. And yeah, because up until then, the oil business had all been taking place in Oklahoma, Texas.
Right,
well, maybe
right.
Oklahoma and Texas.
There was like a super big refineries in Oklahoma. I remember that, yeah. I've heard of that. Really,
I think where the oil business was borned, and my parents and their friends all knew each other from going to OU together and getting their degrees in geology, yes, petroleum geology together, right. And they all decided it's hot in Louisiana. Let's go move to New Orleans, and there was this exodus.
Right.
Like pioneers.
Yeah, because, it snows a shit ton in Oklahoma, right?
What?
No?
Does what in Oklahoma?
Does it snow? I've only been there once, man.
Oh, kind of, sort of. Not much more than it does here.
Yeah. Oh, shit.
But it's, well, the weather's just more extreme altogether. It's
a lot of tornadoes.
Hotter in the summer and tornadoes, yeah. Oh, but see, they have things we don't have there. They have basements and...
Yes.
Laundry chutes that you can try to climb into and slide down from, the second floor to the basement where the laundry is, and stuff you can be bad with like that.
Humidifiers and whatnot. Yeah. So when your folks moved down here, man, how old were you? Were you born yet?
Three.
Yeah. What like middle school, high school did you attend?
I went to St. Martin's all 13 years.
Nice.
Bless their hearts. They paid the price of a late model car for every year that for every year that my brother and I went to school there.
Right. What's it go for nowadays? Couple grand?
Tell me. Oh, so I just read in Consumer Reports that I think the median price for an automobile these days is 40. So the average is like 46,000 and change.
Right.
But that's not I said my parents were spending, a late model car.
Right. Back in those days was what, 12,000, 18,000?
Yeah. But I think even now it's maybe like a little bump up from a regular, like a Lexus instead of a Toyota, something like that.
Right.
I don't. So I have no idea. I'll tell you right now, and you'll always know this about me. I'm bad with money. Don't ever anyone try to swindle me, or you'll get a shiv in the ribs. Because I can't take care of myself when it comes to money. And
right. Well, you're just not good at managing money, but you're good at managing other things. So you're good at managing people. What did you go to college for? I remember you telling me that your parents wanted you
Well, I started doing community theater here in New Orleans. They were not thrilled because it kind of replaces your real teenage life.
Right.
Does anyone know this? There was a country club for teenagers in New Orleans called Valencia, and you got voted in. And if you're lucky enough to become a member of Valencia, you had a place to go where there was a live band and you could dance every Friday and Saturday night of your life. They had tennis courts and swimming pools, and it was a country club for teenagers.
All right, yeah.
And and that's what everyone I was going to school with, that's what they were doing. And what they were really doing is, if their parents were dropping them off at Valencia, they were really getting a ride over to F&M Patio, where they would serve you drinks through a window.
Right, F&M's, yeah.
No one cared how old or young you were.
Right.
Some of us were like 15.
Well, shit, back in those days, it was kind of like, you could buy cigarettes at what, 15, 14? Couldn't you go buy smokes for your parents?
Nobody cared. Nobody cared until a lot later.
Right, until they realized it was killing people.
Yeah. So while they were being bad in those ways, I would get cast in a show, and most nights we would rehearse. I would go to rehearsals for the shows where we'd learn how to do them and everything. And,
How old were you?
Starting when I was 14.
Wow.
And
you wanted to be an actor?
yeah, I was an actor.
Right.
And there was New Orleans Recreation Department. That's NORD. They had something called NORD Theater, and it was this guy who was this huge force of nature named Ty Tracy who ran this theater organization. And it wasn't every spring and every summer he did a show that was all teenagers, no matter what the real characters in the show were. Everyone who played a part was a teenager. And there were shows, that you'd heard of. And then during the rest of the year, he'd do grown-up shows. But if he liked you and you were good on stage, then he would use teenagers in his choruses and ensembles and, small roles. So I just got bit by that bug.
Huh. So you were hooked after that?
Hooked by it and during
Hooked by
it.
it, right.
And so that also probably cost me attention that I should have been paying to homework and stuff like that. But
right. I mean, were you like pretty good in school with grades, or were you kind of okay? So you were really gifted.
Bad.
Right.
Like they wanted me to skip first grade, and like this poor kid, he's like it's like October of his.
Wait, who wanted you to skip
first
school?
Grade?
Who wanted you to skip first grade?
The school did. They just said.
Why did they want to do that?
Because they thought my intelligence warranted it or something like that. So they pulled me out of first grade where I already knew everybody from kindergarten and
right, all your buddies,
and put me in the second grade. And it was
so they thought you were advanced.
Yeah, and it was hard. The main thing was that I missed my buds.
Yeah,
back in
and you're learning
grade.
some like next level shit that you kind of weren't prepared, or were you prepared? Were you that advanced?
Prepared for. You just wasn't prepared for. Didn't know this stuff existed. It was words that I was having to read aloud that I wasn't.
Well, maybe you were really
bad and
maybe you were really good at like portraying that you knew more than you thought, or something like that.
I don't think I really knew it. I just think that what was more important to me was having a good time.
Right. Shit, man, you sound like me. I was a class clown in kindergarten and first grade. So
did you have to?
Well,
did they let you do it?
Well,
like class, did they let you like hijack a class and stuff like that?
Well, I started off in Catholic school, kindergarten and first grade, and I was so ADHD, I guess you could say now, that I would get to class in the morning, put my book sack down, go straight in the back of the class, and just play all day. And after about a year of that shit, my teacher was like telling my mom, she's like, hey, your son's smart, but he just doesn't like to focus. He doesn't want to pay attention, and he never sits in his desk. And basically, I was removed from first grade because, I guess I went through the whole entire year, but then I had to repeat it. So then I went to public school. So it was kind of one of those situations where, I don't know, just didn't understand why I was doing that. I don't know. I just didn't catch my attention.
Kind of like being you.
Yeah, I just didn't care for school at all, unless it entertained me, which was not that. Sticky tack entertained me. You know that stuff? the stuff you hang. So my teacher would bribe me with sticky tack. She's like, hey, if you sit in your desk all day, I will give you a ton of sticky tack. So I would do that, man. I'm capable of like sitting there following orders, but as soon as I got what I needed, I was back at the book sacks for another couple days. I don't know, man. It was weird. But I remember you telling me that your folks wanted you to go to LSU, but you wanted to go to college in New York. So what did you end up deciding to do?
That's where theater was. That's where show business was.
Right, and obviously.
That's what I thought I could maybe do for a living. I never dreamed.
So not L.A.?
To do it. No, L.A.'s about TV and movie production.
And you wanted to do stage theater.
Yeah. And in L.A., they think theater's like quaint.
Gotcha. And what do people in New York think about L.A.?
Oh, it's a very, what they're producing in LA is a really necessary component of the entertainment world. And there was no thing about exclusivity among theater people. We didn't think we had the be all and end all of popular entertainment. So
what college did you actually attend?
Well, I visited a few, like, through the Southeast.
Mm-hmm.
They never took me to New York to look at NYU. That's all right.
Right. Yeah.
Listen, I don't ever want anything that happened in my life to happen any other way that it did, to unfold in any other way than it did, because you and I wouldn't be sitting here right now. I mean, if any infinitesimal bit in your life happened at a different time or at a different place from where it did,
you wouldn't be here.
It would be some.
It's all supposed to happen the way it's supposed to happen.
Absolutely.
That's what I was told.
So I think I've always felt it's a waste of time to regret anything, you know.
Well, you can't take back the past, right? All you have is the now
and use it, man. I mean, whether it was bad for you or beneficial for you, it's all becomes part of your arsenal. It becomes part of who you are and how you deal with people and the world. Well, I want to go to the University of Georgia because they gave me a talent scholarship. I auditioned and I don't know how much. It wasn't a lot of money, but they paid for.
It was enough to go to school for free.
Almost, yeah.
Well, right. Sure, there was like a few hidden fees in there, or whatnot.
Well, it's a state university, and you can go there for free if you live in that, if you're a resident of that state.
Gotcha.
And if you're not, then there's stuff you have to pay for. It's still not like, private college. But
so what did you end up getting your degree in?
Didn't get a degree.
Wow. What happened? What happened?
My guidance counselor called me into his office one day and he said, You're gonna do this for a living, aren't you? And I said, well, I'd kind of like to. And he said, then get out of here.
Right.
We can teach you to go teach theater at in Tallahassee or something.
Right.
But if you want to start doing this and making a living doing it, you need to start doing it. And I said, oh, Jesus, this is like the worst thing anyone's ever said to me. No one has ever in my life said, you can survive life without college.
Wow. But your guidance counselor told you that.
Right. So that gave him a huge measure of credibility.
Well,
my parents were not pleased because both my grandfathers were doctors, and they wanted me and my brother to be professional something.
Right.
And I'm not a professional actor.
Well, I mean, you told me when you first got there to this college that explain how you kind of made it to the top, so to speak, because people were kind of pissed at you for your accomplishments.
All the professors and in this department had all seen the people who auditioned for these talent scholarships. So they already knew
who was coming
more about me than they knew from anyone else who was coming in as a freshman.
Wow.
And this guy who was my guidance counselor, Dr. Stanley Logman. Was directing Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, a play by Tom Stoppard. And it actually all revolves around the real play of Hamlet, but it's all these people who are really like in the background in Hamlet, and they're all like thrust to the forefront, and it's about what happens to them while Hamlet is doing what everybody else knows as Hamlet. And I played Hamlet in it, so
right. And you told me they were kind of pissed because you were a freshman, right?
Oh, the other students were pissed because I got a leading role in the.
You said the faculty too, though. That's what you told me.
What's that?
Didn't you tell me like the faculty was kind of mad at you too?
Oh no. And then,
okay, gotcha.
Then I wasn't clear. No,
gotcha. Misunderstood. Sorry.
It was like
the students.
I could see coming, walking in here and getting a lead in the play.
A senior's like, "Hey, dude, that was my spot," and like this freshman took it.
Yeah.
Well,
so
they just weren't Hamlet, man. You can't get pissed at about that. I mean, right.
So so when he told me that, and he said, you know what, if you absolutely have to finish college, then you can do that. Take a break from the business and go to college. Now, what I will tell people right now, because there are kids all over the country who want to just get out of high school and then just start auditioning and working in Broadway and summer stock and all over the place. And their parents are like, oh, hold on a minute. No, you're not. You're going to you're going to stay in school and you're getting a degree so that you can do something and make some money.
Right,
and
take care of yourself.
We're doing this because we love you. We want you to be able to take care of yourself for the rest of your life and make a good living. I say go to college, finish college, all that stuff you learn, all that stuff, history, culture, everything. It's all goes into your brain and becomes part of what you call upon to become other people as an actor.
Right.
And also in a college drama department, you're cast in all these roles that you would never possibly hope to get in real life. Like, right. You're 19 years old and you're playing, somebody's father in an Arthur Miller play or something. And you get to take these huge chances, wild chances, and really learn from that stuff. And you get to do it in a safe environment. And of course, people aren't judging you. Of course they're judging you. Those people were judging me before I even stepped foot on stage.
Right.
But it's, if you're not good as the father in an Arthur Miller play at 19, your life isn't going to be over.
Right.
And you will learn something about how to stretch yourself and to do that.
But when you're doing it, you feel like your life is over because you felt like you didn't give it your best, right? I mean,
you want to always be giving it your best because you're a fraud if you're not.
Right. Is that what like a method actor would be considered, or is like what is a method actor?
There's so many ways to skin that cat.
Gotcha.
Method acting was constructed around what was perceived to be real behavior, as opposed to getting on stage and having everything be kind of amplified and larger than life, and projecting up to the second balcony so that people can hear you and stuff like that. and it became a cliche. Method actors would sit around and they would talk like this and like we do in real life, and no one could understand what they were saying. And Marlon Brando was a method actor. Marilyn Monroe was a method actor. It meant, and kind of what it boiled down to is that you theoretically were without artifice. You were just behaving, and there happened to be a camera there.
Gotcha.
It was like that.
Gotcha. Were you a method actor, or what were you considered?
Oh no! Well, method actors really, really, really
become that person.
If they wanted to take advantage of that status too, they really wanted to commit to. I'm tired. I'm not going to think of anyone's names, and they may not be names that any of you know anyway. But there are these gods and goddesses of method acting, and there were groups of usually really fantastic actors who were their acolytes, and learned acting that way instead of learning how to move and how to speak and these were people who were just doing what came naturally and were being encouraged to do so by their mentors. So, but no, I wasn't a method actor, and it's not that I rejected it. It's just I got sucked into another way of doing it.
Right. So, how old were you when you left college to pursue your dream?
19.
And that was freshman year or sophomore year?
It was halfway through my sophomore year.
Nice.
And
so you gave it a go for about a year.
Year and a half.
Year and a half, and then your counselor was like, "Hey, man."
Dr. Longman said, "Just go, start working." And
where the hell did you go?
Well, Athens, Georgia was an hour's drive. Athens, Georgia, home of B-52s, REM. I mean, the B-52s were a garage band,
right?
That would play at parties that we would have.
Huh.
And it was a real. A lot of talent came out of, a lot of counterculture talent came out of Athens, and I would hitchhike on weekends and to Atlanta and go see. And Atlanta was just starting to pop at that point. It was like 1973, 74, and I went and I auditioned for the studio theater company at the Alliance Theater of Atlanta. It was one of the most respected regional theaters in the country, and I got hired with a bunch of other people my age, young people my age, to work there. And we learned, it's kind of what we were talking about earlier. We learned how to be prop man, how to run sound, how to do lighting, all that stuff.
Because there's a lot of background in theater, everything, TV, movies,
and it's all based on mentor protege relationships. Someone having some knowledge and wanting to pass it on to someone younger than they are, or someone who's been doing it for a short amount of time than they are. And so the real crew was we would do all this grunt work for them. Like the first day we were there, I know it was a test. They said, okay, you're going to go in this room that's called the weight room, and scenery flies, by people pulling ropes and all.
Right.
And what makes it possible for them to haul tons of scenery up and down is that we pile these weights on the lines so that you could really just take your thumb and index finger and do that, and the whole house would fly up into the flies or something. Anyway, it was necessary that all these big old lead weights were always around to use to help the sets to help the sets move, fly in and out. Y'all are going to clean out the weight room, which means like taking every one of these things that's the size of a
basketball.
No, not that big. It looks like think more like gold bars.
Okay.
Anyway, heavy these weights, and you're going to empty out the weight room, and you're going to vacuum and make sure it's cleaned out really well, and then you're going to clean every single weight in there. Wow. And it was just, the girls were crying, and I think probably I was crying, and it was really hard, and your hands were getting fingers were getting all skinned and cut up, and so that was kind of our
so you're like earning your stripes. Passage. Right. You're earning your stripes to actually be on stage.
And by seeing how we reacted to that, it told them a lot about what we're going to be like to work with for a whole season. And then we had our own season. We did our own plays in the studio theater downstairs instead of upstairs on the main stage. And fantastic experience. And again, I was still a chance to do things and fail in a safe environment. If I was going to be terrible in this play called the Captain America and the Ectomorph or something, and I wasn't. I was great. Then there was no big. There are no sure things in the theater.
Well, it's kind of like a one shot, one chance, right? Like an audience for a studio theater show is maybe like 40 or 60 people per performance, as opposed to 300 or 400 in the big theater. Again, it was a place to grow and be unself-conscious about taking chances. Okay.
And then people who were working at the Alliance Theater, directors, designers, actors, they were all going up to work in Cortland, New York, which is near Syracuse, for the first season of a new theater called Cortland Repertory Theater. And we did 3 musicals and 2 plays in 2 months, I guess. And we had a fantastic time. And it's like a real intensive. You have to learn your roles and everything that goes into the show, all the choreography, all the singing, the music, everything, like within a week and a half.
This is in New York?
Summer stock. It's in New York State, yeah.
Gotcha. So at this point, you moved over there?
Well, I was itinerant. I hadn't really moved yet. If someone asked where I lived, I would say New Orleans, where my parents are.
Gotcha. What's a thespian?
A pretentious name for actor.
Gotcha. I heard my cousin was asking me about that, and it was a question I wanted to ask. So
it's
one of those things. Right, Tyler? Right? Yeah.
You would call someone a thespian if you were in a Saturday Night Live skit, and it was, the Crucible closing night. You remember that video?
No.
Oh, it's in Saturday
on
Night
Saturday
Live.
SNL.
Yeah, it was, you know how they do musical numbers every once in a while.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
there was one called that, and yes, real dedicated. Like the acting, the drama teacher would say, "You're thespians," and you'd go, "Oh, that's so much more important than an actor." And like I said, it's really just kind of pretentious.
Right.
But people I worked with in Cortland, New York, they were going to. There used to be something called dinner theater.
Dinner theater.
Does it ring a bell? No. Boy, dinner theater is long dead. And you would, rather than buying tickets for seats, you would book tables. And they would have this big buffet line in the middle of this dining room. And then once everybody had finished eating, they wheeled all the steam tables and everything away and then flew in all the scenery. And then you watched a show from your seats.
Wow.
So it was a great entertainment bargain. And they found that movie stars... who maybe their star was starting to fade a little bit. They were great leading performers for dinner theaters because our parents were like buying the tickets, and they knew who. Again, I'm not going to be able to think of names, but actors from the 40s and 50s who are now a little over the hill.
Right.
But they would sell tickets because
people wanted to see them.
Our parents wanted to see, what are they like at this age?
Right.
And I'm going to be able to get their autograph afterwards, and I'm going to be sitting 10 feet from them while they're smacking. Went down to Fort Lauderdale, to South Florida, and did dinner theater. And the Cortland experience, those are the two first professional experiences of my career. And then you can keep going like that. You can keep going into New York, which is where the auditions are, and then getting hired. And then you go out into the country where the theaters are, and you come back in, audition, get hired. And so everything was kind of circling around New York. And I thought, if it's going to be like this, I might as well move to New York and be there for all the auditions instead of lucking out and being there for one of them.
How old were you when you moved to New York?
21 or 22.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
So you went straight to it. The Big Apple.
Yeah. Well, and then I knew all these. I had this instant circle of friends because there were people that I'd worked with in dinner theater and summer stock. And,
you had buddies, you had connections, you had hookups,
and they were already living there. And they would advise. They would tell you about what to do and what to not to do and how not to fuck up and who the people were who were putting on this show or that show and who the good directors might be and who might show you off your talents well.
Well, where does one go if they want to work in New York? Where would you go? Where did you go?
You don't have to go anywhere except to show up for auditions. But it's helpful to have some training unless you're just, brilliantly talented and everything comes natural to you, which is
rare.
Happens very rarely. But no, we would take dance classes and voice lessons and acting classes just to sharpen up your skills and make it better. Some people would join a group and become part of the Actors Studio, which was the method acting.
Okay.
Part of Actors Studio. I mean, I could go and audit these classes where people like, I don't know, Ellen Burstyn, Jason Robards, and all these stars that you just worshipped, where they were sitting around talking. They talked a lot at the Actors Studio, but sitting around talking about theory a lot and then doing scene work, and you're getting to rub shoulders with these people. And it was real kind of magnanimous. It was kind of a communist concept. No one was any more important or any better than anybody else. So if you're a method actor, a lot of people might not want to work with you because they would think, ooh, they're so method.
Right. They're so into them.
But Al Pacino, Al Pacino would say, hey, Tommy, let's go have breakfast before class tomorrow. And, so that was a good thing to fall into if you did.
Right. Did you get to hang out with Al Pacino? Or?
I didn't. I wasn't a method person.
Right.
No, however, that was a big however. My first job on Broadway, it was a play called Tribute, starring Jack Lemmon, and it was about a press agent, kind of a ne'er-do-well, and his dysfunctional relationship with his nerdy son. And I understudied Bob Picardo, who now is just a lot of movies and TV, who played the son, never missed a single fucking performance. So I never got to go on.
Wow.
But
were you hoping a little bit?
A lot. Yeah. And I was ready to
You was ready to steal the show.
push him in front of the subway train or something,
No shit.
But and the girl who was understudying the young lady and the love interest for Bob Picardo's character became one of my best friends. Should I be telling this?
I mean, you don't have to disclose.
Al Pacino was like at his total height.
Gotcha.
At that point, I mean, maybe Godfather, maybe second Godfather movie.
What year is this? Like,
this is like 76, 77, something like that.
Nice.
Anyway, they met and they struck it up.
Right. There
They
you go.
still see each other.
There you go.
And he's old and she's old.
Right.
And it's so sweet.
I mean,
And
sparks flying, and
she would say, "Oh, Al said this, and me and Al did that," and it was very exciting to hear.
Well, I mean,
like
you've worked and met with a lot of pretty famous people throughout the years, right? Because I mean, you stayed at Broadway. I mean, is that what happened?
Oh, yeah. So if you're lucky, and you start working on Broadway, then that's like your work home.
So you were getting paid to work on Broadway.
Yeah, you can't not get paid to work on Broadway.
Right. So
kind of
clear.
the definition.
So you had that. Like, what was your job? I mean,
So I was being an actor.
Gotcha.
And auditioning for Broadway shows and tours of Broadway shows, and my best friends were all we were in the same boat. One of us was a star on what was he? What show? What? I can't remember the names of the soaps. I was in 4 soaps. I was in The Guiding Light. I was in One Life to Live. I was in All My Children, and probably another one. And not any long-running role, but a role where I would be in like 5 or 6 episodes and then sort of disappear. And
Wow.
it was cool.
But a lot of those that was all filmed in New York?
Most soaps were. There were, I think, 3 or 4 that were shot in Los Angeles.
Okay,
Most
yeah.
of them were in New York.
I did not know that.
And soaps were a tender trap. Why I've used that term twice in one interview. That's kind of, I don't know what to think of
Tender
that.
trap.
But it's
my first time hearing it, so I like it.
If you come into if you get into soaps and you get a running role that you're one of the characters there, if people saw you at the mall, they'd say, "Oh, there's Joey." And
Right.
And
Well, I mean, I know my mom and my grandma still watch them, so you got to be careful.
the few they're on, and so it's paid a lot of money, a lot of money, but it was kind of a grind. There are always lines to learn.
Right. And you got to stay in like tip top shape. I mean, a lot of those guys, like I know they're close to 70 and they still look like 40.
Yeah. And you have to look fantastic all the time. Like you can't go to Fire Island for the weekend and just have this, and party all weekend and then tumble into the studio Monday. And,
right.
And I mean, you can, but
are they working 5 days a week, or is this like that?
5 days a week. Yeah.
What about Broadway? What's that? What type of job is that? Is that
That's 8 performances a week. 6 days a week. We never had, until I worked at Costco, and I work at Costco now, I never knew what having a weekend was like, or having a 5-day work week.
Having a normal life.
Yeah.
Because you want it to be the life of an actor.
What a normal life. I want to be in show business.
Yeah. So show business did you well.
Yeah. That play that I was talking about with Bob Picardo and Laura, it used to be that if you didn't have a small role in the play and you were covering one of the principals, then you really just kind of sat around waiting for them to get sick or injured, but you would need to go into work and spend most of the performance there. And once someone decided it was sure that the person you're covering is going to make it through the performance, then they'd let you go home, promising that you would answer the phone if someone called and come rushing back if it was necessary. And back then, if you wanted to make some extra money, they would throw you an extra $30 a week to become assistant stage manager, which is doing the grunt work for the stage manager. It's running the deck. The stage manager who's calling the show is like the captain of the ship and has headset on, is on one side of the stage and making all the scenery move and happen and all the lights change. And the assistant is just taking care of everything that goes on backstage.
Right.
And
you ended up doing that job?
On Tribute, yeah. That show had two cities for its out-of-town tryout. One was Boston. Boy, talk about a good start.
Nice.
It was Boston, the Colonial Theater, which is one of the oldest legitimate theaters in the country, and Boston has great. Well, and Jack fucking Lemmon was the star. I mean, I went to work with him every day.
What was that?
We hung out in the dressing room. I mean,
pretty cool.
People think that if you say you did a show with someone, that it means that you were part of this process where everything led up to this performance, and then you said bye everybody, and went your separate ways. No, if you're on a Broadway and movies are kind of like that. If you're in a Broadway show, it becomes your family. You're
right.
8 shows a week, 6 days a week, and you get to know people really, really well, and they become your circle of friends.
Right.
But I agreed to be that assistant stage manager on Tribute. The other out-of-town tryout city was Toronto, and so we did Boston and Toronto. By the time the show closed in Toronto, I was already calling the show. I was doing what the lead stage manager does. I just took to it really easily. And after that, I kept auditioning for shows, and like everybody else, hoping and praying for a job. And I was having to turn down invitations to stage manage shows. And I thought, this is so fucked up. Why don't I just, do you really have to be on the stage that much? Are you really that much of a whore? And
I mean,
no.
that was your goal though, right? I mean, your dream was to.
Yeah. But I thought about it and I thought I'd rather eat.
Right. Because I mean, it's really hard to eat as an actor, right?
If you're not getting work and not getting paid, then yeah, your chances are it's a good chance you're not eating. And so I just kept getting asked to do all these shows as stage manager. And
so you kind of found your niche, and it might not have been
without ever
acting.
think. I never would have thought that it was something I would be good at. And
did you enjoy it towards the end kind of more, or?
I enjoyed it from the second I was on a stage manager's contract. It was great. It was assisting the guy who was the captain of the ship. The
right. You were the second in
coach,
command.
Yeah. And it wasn't about power. It was about, here's what I will always tell people that management of a live performance should be. It's about creating a context within which everyone can do their very best work, where they're the most comfortable, they feel the most supported, their needs are taken care of. I just was crazy about it. I loved it. And
how long did you do it for?
38 years.
Ooh,
yeah.
Shit. Well, how long did you completely quit acting at that point, or was there?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. All my friends who were actors were just beating their heads against the wall and praying for a job in summer stock that summer. And
but you were making a living doing this.
Broadway.
Right. So you worked on Broadway, but just not on a stage like you originally.
Yeah, I didn't feel like my life was going to end if I wasn't appearing on stage in front of people. I just wanted to participate.
Right. Which is
I found.
Right.
That was the thing.
I mean, 38 years, man, it's a long time to live in New York.
I did 14 Broadway shows. Bam.
It happens.
and 12 national tours, and
14 Broadway shows, 12 national tours,
and had a great time at all of it until toward the end when something really bad happened and I was publicly assassinated by some people who wanted to take me like a little ant and flick me around and
right. I remember you telling me that. I mean, so is that like just the industry, like people kind of gunning for you and whatnot? And
not very well. I think maybe the movie industry was kind of ruthless,
right,
in a way, and TV because they inherited their genes from the movies. But
talking to it a little closer,
and
just you can pull it to you.
Yep. But in theater, people were nice to each other. It was a family. You were gonna be working with people for a long time,
right?
And you hope to work with them again. If not, then you hoped to be sitting next to them at the bar at Joe Allen's or Sardi's.
Right.
So we tended not to. There are always going to be stories about people trying to sabotage their friends because they're competitors for getting a role, and stuff like that.
Have you seen some like pretty cutthroat shit? I mean, you probably heard a lot and seen a lot of crazy shit, or is it like not that serious?
I try to forget bad things.
Right.
Which is a protective thing, but it's
right.
You shouldn't forget bad things because
your brain makes
a lot
you
of
forget
stuff about people. But yeah, your brain chooses to go with.
Yeah, if you can't handle it, your brain actually cuts you off from it for a while until you can handle it. At least that's what I heard.
It's just much more pleasant to think about pleasant things than people fucking each other over.
Yeah, it's like a fight or flight mechanism that your brain does.
Yeah.
Did you do a lot of partying? I mean, was there like a lot? Was it, like sex, drugs, and rock and roll? I mean,
Eric,
like what's Broadway like, man?
Eric, this was the 70s.
Nice.
And the 80s.
Yes.
And the 90s.
Yeah.
Think about all that.
Nice.
And everything that was happening in big cities, especially New York all that time.
Right. People got to get pepped up before they go on stage.
It became that.
Wow.
Too. I never was
partake.
I was never worked on a show that was like that. And there are a lot of moral dilemmas in that. I mean, at Chorus Line, which is like the most successful musical in history, to a certain point, they were like passing the bottles of Coke across the hallway to the people in the next dressing room, and they would get their buzz and go on stage and really deliver. And Michael Bennett, who produced and directed Chorus Line, did not discourage that.
I guess it's whatever keeps you on your edge.
Yeah, but there's also a lack of control that can come with doing Coke and too much Coke.
Yeah.
And also if your brain is messed up in certain ways, then it'll mess you up more.
Oh yeah, it definitely inhibits you, I believe. It definitely turns most people into different people.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
But that's not to say, I mean, my mom's never going to hear this. There was probably not a day of my life from the age of 20 until I was 52 or 54 or so. Right. Oh my God.
Can't remember.
What I didn't do.
Right.
I lost my memory in the 70s. No, I did some kind of drug. It didn't have the kind of stigma that it has now. Everyone did drugs. Everyone did drugs. We all smoked ganja.
Yeah.
I'm glad I was never in love with cocaine because I just thought it was such a waste of money. I didn't enjoy the high that much.
Yeah.
So
it's not fun.
I was never in love.
The come down sucks even worse.
But it's so easy to get addicted to it. But I was never someone who had to have Coke.
Well,
but I loved LSD and I loved THC and I loved Quaaludes.
Yeah,
and,
man. Yeah,
just had great times.
Yeah, one of my the first guy I interviewed, my friend Mr. Glenn, he was always talking about the Quaaludes, and he's back in them days, and they sounded pretty cool.
Oh, Quaaludes were the most fabulous drug I ever had.
Yeah, that's what he said. He said it was like what made them get rid of that, man?
The U.S. government couldn't control it and couldn't profit from it because Quaaludes were made to be anti-anxiety medications.
Yeah.
And
well, that's like people that claim to do cocaine and do this and that. They say it takes the edge off, but it really doesn't. It actually makes you like super paranoid and 10 times more, in my opinion, more like geeked out than it should be.
Yeah, and it's part of it's part of how you talk yourself into thinking that it's okay to do it by thinking, oh yeah, this puts me where I want to be to become the person that I want to be. And
right.
So there was not a lot of judgmental. There's not a lot of judging about all of us doing these drugs, and then our recreational lives were conducive to doing the drugs. I mean, that was when discotheques came into being, and there were all these fantastic clubs in New York where the music would just, blow you out of the water, and
everybody's dancing.
Everybody
all night.
was high, and you felt like you knew everybody. And so there were those. And in New York, you would go, if you were lucky, you were going to Fire Island on the weekends. And Fire Island is this sandbar, really, it's not more than that, off of Long Island, about a 2.5 drive from New York, where there are these houses on stilts in the dunes, and it was like being in Never Never Land.
No shit.
Am I hearing my voice coming and going? Because I hear it even
you just
when
have
I'm
to
not
make sure
moving
you just have to make sure that you speak like closer to it, because sometimes when you get like a little further back, so almost like a little bit. They say like a fistful away, or that's what Joe Rogan says, but they're super sensitive,
Yeah.
So if you kind of like lean back a little bit, you can kind of do that. But when you're right up on it,
I ain't gonna do that. I want them to hear me.
Yeah, man, you sound great. You sound like a natural.
Fire Island was the first place I'd ever been, and maybe still that I've ever been, where you can be absolutely and completely
out of your mind,
yourself, and out of your mind without being judged. If you fell off the boardwalk on your way home from a club one night, the worst thing that could happen is that you would land in poison ivy and have a rough few weeks after that. But if someone could pick you up and take you to their house and let you sleep on the couch, or maybe even fuck with you.
I mean, were people like nice like that? I mean, were people pretty cool? Yeah,
it was right. Yes,
like, hey man, you come sleep on my couch. Maybe we could fuck. No big deal.
Well, sex was a huge part of.
Right.
There were two communities like that in Fire Island. One was Fire Island Pines. The other one was Cherry Grove. And
which
Cherry
one was
Grove
better?
They were both better.
Right. Nice.
Cherry Grove was kind of blue collar and skewed slightly older, slightly less. What do we say Costco is like compared to Sam's? It's more market.
It's what?
Market. It's like it's Fire.
Well, you got organic and you got non-organic, right?
Right.
Whatever that means.
It was like Fireline Pines is more upmarket for Cherry Grove, and there was snobism involved, and like, oh well, we decided we're going to try to get a house in the Pines this year just because it's the Pines,
right?
And
snooty.
But sex was a huge part of it, and gay men were, I would guess, the principal.
More of the Pines
profile. No, both places.
Okay, gotcha.
Was the profile of most residents and renters at Fire Island, but it was for everybody.
Gotcha.
It's just there were more of them than anybody else, and they sort of led the way regarding losing inhibitions and being free, and nudism and sense and semi-public sex and drug use and
almost like a orgy in a sense, but
it was like an orgy, except people weren't having sex all the time. But I mean, it would be hard if you were a guy and you were decent looking and had a nice body. I mean, you couldn't make it from one end of the town to the next without being grabbed and pulled into something going on in someone's house. Yeah. And women were also a big part of it. And they learned that they could be respected for who they are. And, you'll hear a lot of women say, I don't know if they still do, say that the men I want to hang out with are gay guys. They're not treating me like a piece of meat.
Right.
And they're not trying to take my job.
Right.
And there's no pressure. And they could even get laid a lot of the time. There were guys who were there looking for those women who, Anyway, it was hedonism, I guess, is
hedonism, yeah,
the word I keep circling around.
Sounds like a fun time.
And it still exists, although it's been made a lot more
it's probably
sober since the onset of AIDS.
Right. Well, it's probably a lot more like controlled and organized, and there's probably like codes and like little shit you got to do now. You can't just like walk. I mean, sure, nobody's pulling you off the boardwalk to go.
Not so much.
Yeah, but I mean,
I'm saying it is like that still.
Okay, cool. Gotcha.
But like the AIDS epidemic, it caused people to become introspective and look at their behavior and think, okay, maybe I don't have to get laid every single night of my life by someone else.
Right. Unprotected.
Yeah. There was no such word.
Right.
Unprotected then. It wasn't anything. There was nothing. That was the thing about it. There was nothing
protecting you.
Negative. Right. There was nothing negative to any of it. It was riding this tidal wave of sexual freedom, and for everybody. And gay guys were sort of the mastheads of those ships.
Wow, they were they were running shit.
They were, and hippies were. I mean, that's hippies. The hippie movement was where free love came from.
Gotcha.
And that was in the 60s, and then gay guys said, hey, wait a minute. They don't have to be the only ones who are, having that much fun. And so it was a great time to be in New York City. The sexual revolution was happening. The Broadway musical was sort of, which had gone into a slump, was being reborn. It's a great time to be in New York until the onset of AIDS, and then it kind of became a nightmare, and it was like
pretty wild after that.
Wartime. Every time you turned around, someone else you knew had gotten sick and died, and I used to keep a list of
people you knew,
people I knew that had gotten sick and died, and not people who just I knew who they were, people that I knew. And after it was like 260 people long, I couldn't face doing it anymore. I wish, and I threw it away. And I wish I'd kept doing it, because those people deserve to be remembered as much as everyone who came before them. We had just bottomed out on all of our friends dying these grotesque, painful deaths. And
it's a shitty way to go.
Hadn't done anything to deserve it except
live their life.
Loved everybody and lived their life and was happy. And
now
its effects will exist forever.
Right. Well, now they have the PrEP, right, with a lot of my buddies, a lot of my friends use, and apparently that's like a fucking game changer.
Yeah, and that's just great,
right,
for people.
Yeah. And it's kind of wild because people are talking about, the vaccines and the pandemics and, all the shit that's happening right now. And, I mean, obviously AIDS has been around for a very long time. It's killed a big number of people, but they finally have this thing that this pill you can take, and still enjoy your life, which I think
was like science fiction to think of back then.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's kind of weird. You could take this and still do your thing and not get sick, or even if you contract it, it's not going to kill you.
Yeah.
Which is, back then that was unheard of. So
it was a death sentence.
Yeah,
then.
big time.
I mean, people were diagnosed and then 3 or 4 months later dead.
So I think that's pretty neat that they were able to come up with stuff like that. Yeah, so that's good, man. World's crazy, man. World's crazy.
And we're lucky to be crazy people in it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, crazy people make a lot of cool shit happen sometimes.
That's right.
Yeah.
Usually crazy people.
Yeah. I mean, most crazy things that have probably happened in this world probably have happened from somebody who wasn't always on their rocker, 100%.
Right.
I mean,
somebody wasn't following
suit
protocol.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got to think a little bit outside the box to make shit happen, right? I mean,
you got to.
If everybody's in the same box thinking the same shit, then
it's all going to be the same boring shit.
Yeah.
No, there got to be pioneers. There got to be people who break through and come up with new stuff that no one's ever seen or heard before.
Exactly. But yeah, we're getting to that ending point. It's getting kind of late. I appreciate you even doing this tonight. I mean, I know you had a long day.
Oh, it was exciting to go through all the ins and outs of, is this going to happen tonight? No, maybe it'll happen tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Oh, we can do it, but we don't have time.
You're a hard man to get in touch with, man. No, I'm joking. But
I can be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm just grateful that you were able to do it and that you wanted to come on, because in my eyes, when I'm always talking to you and we're, speaking, you just always have the coolest stuff to say, and you lived a very crazy life in a good way. And, in my eyes, I'm like, not many people I've met at all have worked on Broadway. So hopefully next time I have you back, we'll have some crazier stories. And, I mean, most people, they don't really get it. What can you say for the people out there, the kids out there, the people that are trying to pursue their dreams in Broadway, or attempting that type of lifestyle? What, besides finishing the college degree, like you said earlier, what would you say to someone right now?
Don't let people deny you your dreams. Don't let people tell you that you can't do this or can't do that. Just commit to your dream and see it through. And sometimes that'll result in families deciding, wow, we don't want our kid to go in that direction.
Right.
And they distance themselves from them, or
believe in yourself.
Believe in yourself, and find a way to be around other people who are doing the same thing, and they'll support you.
Yeah, I do believe you have to surround yourself with the same type of people, or which is hard to find. I mean, not everybody's going to be like you. I mean,
But people with the same objectives, with people who are the same.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah. Well, thank you, Mr. Tommy. I appreciate it. And,
thanks for having me in.
Hopefully, hopefully I have you on again if you're willing to come. Maybe we won't do it as late as tonight. It's kind of one of those late night sessions, which is fun for me sometimes.
You're saying maybe we'll do it again tonight? Like
no. I said maybe we'll do it again. Yeah, that would be a little crazy. I mean, we can. I mean, what time is it? Yeah, 11 o'clock. No, definitely next time. We'll do it a little earlier. And
that has to do with my.
Well, no. So. Yeah, and my schedule too, man. We both got crazy schedules, so I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, man.
Next time, okay, guys, appreciate y'all tuning in, and we'll catch you next time. So y'all have a good day. Thank you.
Bye.